Good day.
How are you?
I'm fine, and I'm happy to welcome our first American boat at Welshpool Landing, the new reincarnation of Welshpool Landing.
We are the very first.
That's it.
My friend Davis and my buddy Barry
And our boat.
and our boat. We are on Campobello Island.
Yeah.
And we are the first ones.
Since in the newly constituted port of entry, it was a port of entry before.
This
it's
was
historic. Roosevelt's tied up here. Many boats tied up here.
So this is where Roosevelt would tie up on this dock, pretty much.
It was a predecessor of this dock.
Okay, the predecessor, and now this one's fallen into.
At the top is in disrepair, but the bottom is all good. It's like iron. So we got to get the top fixed.
Okay, and
But in the meantime, we have these floats. The wharf it has many predecessors. Welshpool used to be full of wharves and docks, but this is the main government wharf. And the main government wharf and its predecessors, they served for the mail boat. The mail boat used to circle all the Passamaquoddy ports every day. Fishing boats, people tending wear, and tourism boats like the Roosevelt in their day would have tied up at the predecessor yacht. Many summer people had yachts. Yachts would come up from the American coast. And what we're doing now is we're reopening it for fishing, aquaculture, but also we hope to attract a lot of American tourists
And sailors.
Well, we got a few down on Nantucket. Would you like a few of them to come on up here?
Nantucketers are
I mean,
welcome.
look at this. This is wonderful. Now, where would they tie up if this wasn't here? Where else could they?
They think there's other wharves on the island, but those wharves are not quite as accessible. They're more crowded than ours. They're not as easy to get into. They don't have the water depth. We're the closest to the border.
What kind of water depth can we
It's
bring?
about 20 foot on the outside of the dock, and in the past, vessels up to about 300 feet have tied up.
Wow.
So, but what we hope to attract is not necessarily the enormous cruise ships, but medium-sized, small people like yourselves that are pleasure boaters.
Before we go, tell us a little bit about Campobello. Why should people come up here? Why would you encourage tourism on Campobello?
Campobello is beautiful. Campobello is historic. Campobello has friendly people. It has working waterfronts. It has a history that no other place has. You can see the place up on Deer Point. The people who originally owned it, the Owens, it was more or less a feudal system. There were tenant farmers, but it developed into a community like any other. There's historic elements here. There was a Fenian raid from Eastport in 1866 that frightened New Brunswick.
What kind of a raid?
Fenian, Irish Americans. This is a historical digression, but that raid kind of frightened the provinces of New Brunswick and Nova Scotia into what we call the Confederation of Canada, when 4 provinces joined to form the country. That was in part triggered by a botched raid from Eastport.
Why were they Irish, though?
The Irish Americans at that time were fighting for home rule from Britain. They thought that they could, it sounds crazy, but they thought they could establish a world headquarters on Campobello. And they tried to invade, but they only got as far as Indian Island. I realize this is a digression.
That's okay, but that's cool.
Now we have the person here who's been the prime mover of this whole movement. Joyce Morrill from the Owen House in the background. That's
Hello.
They're exaggerating, as usual.
So you made this pretty much, you put the gears in order.
We all did because, actually this is a project of the class of 57 because Joe and I and Janice and Hilda were all members of the original 57 Campobello class, and we all remember a living wharf with a lot of activity and the hub of a community and beautiful boats stopping here, and we lost it, and we're trying to get it back. It's the year that Roosevelt came back to Campobello, battleship in tow, and stayed at the hall, visited the hall, which is all decked up, and everyone came, and it was very lively, and we've taken this as our vision for the area. We want this again, and I think we can do it.
Does that look amazing? Look at that. So this little place, is it now a community center?
It's a community hall.
Mm-hmm.
It's went through a series of downward spirals, and we decided when it came up for sale that we needed support for the hall. So we bought it as a group. It's a nonprofit, Friars Bay Development Association. And we put a lot into it to get to this stage. And we're excited about it because it's going to be a very handsome building. And it's going to do a lot of things, including boaters when we get the bottom floor done, because we're going to have showers and washer dryers and bathrooms and a little concession for the boaters. So we plan all sorts of events, and it's going to be the prettiest building for that on the island, and we're sure that it's going to be very busy.
Wow, well, you're really giving it a go. Let me ask you about the local situation, though. Campobello is pretty isolated, right?
Yes, Campobello is one of these strange communities surrounded basically by the United States and a long drive from Canada, not so far by the ferry, but the ferry's only 3 or 4 months of the year, and in the winter, Campobello is really isolated. So we need employment on Campobello because you can't really drive to another community and get work. And it's a very odd situation, and it makes us struggle in many ways. And this is one of the reasons we're doing this, in order to boost the economy of the island.
And how do the locals feel about it? What kind of
they're
reaction?
pleased.
Huh? They are?
They're pleased, yes.
The population, is it growing?
No, it's shrinking. Used to be 1,500 years ago, now it's 900 local.
And why is that?
Well,
what is that?
the children, our children, although they get good schooling, they go off and get good jobs, but there's nothing on the island for them after a certain stage.
I think
So
that's a
we're
symptom
trying-
all over
I think
the
it
world.
is too. and
People want to be
We're
urban.
trying to
Yeah.
improve that situation.
Yeah.
And
Well-
everyone knows it. We try as best we can to hire as many kids as possible until they can go away to college.
And fishing is that's the big drop off,
Lobster
right?
fishing is good and scallop fishing is good, but it doesn't support everybody.
Yeah, right, okay. Well, I wish you really great luck with this.
We're in a beautiful position to do this, and the time is right, and I think it's going to just go like crazy.